Hey everybody. So last week I made a post on LinkedIn about getting duct connectors, and this is a part of a bigger workflow. But I want to show you guys how I got that information and just kind of my thought process. That might be helpful just if you're learning Python and Dynamo. So let's get into it. So I've got some duct drawn here, and then I've got some duct fittings as well. And so we'll get the duct connectors for both of those. So if we click on that, typically what I would do is go to my add-ins, and then I would use Revit lookup. I definitely recommend getting that if you don't have it. And then I'll snoop the current selection. And then there's a method or property called connector manager, and if we click on that, that will actually have all of our connectors in it. So in this case, that was just a duct with two connections. So if we click on connectors, we'll see the two connectors for that duct there. And even cooler is that we can also find the other items that are connected to this connector by clicking on all references. We won't look at this, but this will show us the other elements that are connected to this item. So actually, let's grab this one, and then we'll see that we have the radius and elbows and T's. Ooh, now I'm getting all messed up here. So actually, so we have our duct fitting. That's rectangle T, and it's the standard one. So if we go up here to this connector, scroll down, we'll see that that's the standard, and then if we click on that. And then here we can see the duct fitting, or the category is duct fitting. So the cool thing is through the connector you can find the other elements that are connected to it. So if you wanted to get a system or specific elements that are connected to one another, you could do that. So anyways, we know now what's available. So in Dynamo, what I'll do is we'll start a brand new graph, and then we'll start to look at these elements. We'll have to have like a couple functions, one to handle ducts and one to handle fittings. We could just combine that into one function so that we could just manage that one function, which I think that makes more sense. The example I showed on LinkedIn was two different functions, one for duct fitting and one for ducts. So we'll just do a new graph, and then we'll go ahead and we'll select all of our elements. So we'll do model select, or actually, sorry, select model elements. We'll drop a Python node in here. And for the most part, we'll be working in Python. So I'll open up a Python script, and then we can start to work in it. I'll expand this. We'll get rid of that. We'll change this to elements. And now we'll create a function called get connector. So what we're going to do is get the connector location, and then we're going to get the connectors, get the origin of the connectors, and then turn that origin to a point, and then return the point as our out list. So we'll pass an element here, and then now we're going to check to see what the types are, because we have to handle duct fittings differently than we handle ducts. So we'll say if element dot category dot name is equal to ducts, then we will, and let's actually, we'll create our equals, so we'll create that empty list, because that list is what we're going to return. So if element.category.name equals ducts, then we're going to loop through the connector. So for I in, or we'll say for duct in elements, oh. Element, and this element would be, so we'll do element dot connectors, and then that's a set. So if we click on connectors, and then you'll see here that it's a set, and so there could be 2 or 5 different connectors for a duct, and so we'll loop through that. That's why we have this loop here. So for connector in element dot manager connectors, and then what we'll do is append the point to our connectors. Or actually, we'll just call this connector points. So for connector in elements, and then we'll go ahead and do dot append. So we'll go connector underscore points dot append, and we'll append the origin. And so we've got our connector right here. Connector dot origin, and then we'll do dot to point, and then that's a method that we would use on the origin. Alright, so that will loop through, and it'll append the, so we'll loop through the connectors, and then what we'll do is we'll take connector.origin, and then we'll turn that origin to a point, and that's what we're appending to our connector points. And then before we set the same thing up for the duct fittings, we'll go ahead and just return this to make sure everything looks right. And so here's our function. We'll create our out list equals nothing, and then we'll go for I in elements. Or actually, let's call this for element in elements. And then we'll do out dot append get connector location. So it's going to loop through our input of elements, which in this case is going to be our selected model elements of all the ducts and duct fittings. It's going to go through and check to see if the category is a duct. If it isn't, it's just going to pass it, and what we'll get is a list of just ducts. or a list of the list of the connector points for each duct. So let me bring that over. If we expand this, we'll see the list of our stuff. And so we'll see here that we've got a bunch of empty lists. Those empty lists are the fittings, because we still create our list here and we still return it. And so what it's doing is it's appending that empty list anytime it hits that duct fitting. So now what we'll do, and you can see the points back there too. And something that could be helpful is when we first pass in this element, what we can do is just append the element at the beginning of the list, and then when we run it, we'll have the duct, the duct that pertains to these points at the beginning of the list. Also, it's going to be in order by this list as well, but like in this case, we just have the duct. So if we wanted to separate them, then we're able to do that. And then you can see the duct fittings right here, and there's no points associated with them. So we'll go ahead and do the same thing now for duct fittings, and we'll have the same output, just now the duct fittings will have their points. The only difference with duct fittings is they have one extra like property. So if we close all of this and then select here, and you'll see the 3 points. So there's 3 points. These are the ducts that are connected, the points that we're getting from them. So you'll see them all there ghosted in. So kind of cool. So we'll go ahead and click on this, go up to add-ins, click on the Revit lookup, Snoop current selection, and then here we'll go ahead and look at the same connector manager, except for we have to go through the MEP model first. So if we click on that, that'll take us to the connector manager. So all we have to do really is copy all of this code here, paste it down here, fix some of this. So let's pull that back, and then we'll change that to an LF. And I change it to an LF because then we can add in later an else statement for like terminals, or if we need to add like flex duct, you know, we can just continue adding onto that list. And like ducts, I haven't looked at flex duct or terminals, but they may have the same, you know, same structure as like a duct does. So we could just pass it in here. We could say if the category equals any of these, go ahead and run this, but we'll just leave this as is now. So we'll call this duct fittings, and then down here, instead of element dot connector manager, we'll add another dot here, and then we'll do MEP model, just to make sure that worked. Yep. Okay. Or not worked, but was the right one. And then that should be it for that. Now when we run this, we should see a bunch of nulls. So let's check this again. Element dot category dot name equals duct fittings, then let's do. Now, I'm sure it's something super small that I'm just not catching. Oh no. Let's go all the way back. Oh wait. I knew it. This is what we're missing here. Forgot to add the return. Alright. So return, connector points. And that's part of what I wanted to show you in this movie. The way that I think about this or work through this, just so that you can see it if you've never like thought through one of these graphs or to do this. You know, that's what I'm trying or hoping to show you today. Just the thought process and how to get this information and how to get it from start to end. So there's our connector points. Now if we run this, we should get all of our stuff. And it looks like we're not appending it to the proper list. So you can see here, there's our duct. So let's go back in here. So for connector, so if element dot category name equals ducts. Oops, I copied the wrong one. All right, duct fittings. We'll add here dot MEP model again. Run that and we have our ducts. Let's make sure that this is right. Oops, let's get rid of that S. Boom. So bunch of trial and error there, but I think it was worth it anyways, just to show you how I work through it. You know, I've created a bunch of Python graphs, but it isn't sometimes it's just, you know, testing a few different things, checking your syntax, making sure you have everything proper, and then just, you know, doing it that way. So I'm hoping to show just like my workflow here, and that you know, nobody's perfect at developing these, and you know, if you're trying to learn this, you know, continue doing it, and you'll get it eventually. So there's our function, get connector location, and this is a function that we run on each individual element. That's why we have this for loop here, and then we're just appending the output of that function to our out list, which is returning it here. And there we go, we have all of our points, and we should actually, yeah, so this here, because some of those duct fittings should have multiple points, and then are more than 3 points. So here, this would have 3 points, this one would have only 2, so we can see that reflected in this list. So that one has 3 points. Something I think is cool is like if you can build a cool workflow with the references. So the references of the connector, so that you can find out what it's connected to, and then you're able to do some pretty cool stuff. So that's it. I just wanted to show you guys how to get the point location of the connectors. The graph will be available on my GitHub, so feel free to check that out if you want to download this and use it. But anyways, that's all I got for this video. Thank you for watching.